Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So to start with, obviously you probably noticed I didn't make a video yesterday. Actually, I had a migraine. I don't have them very often, probably like once every 6 months. In fact, I hadn't had one for about a year. Last night or yesterday morning I had one. I'm still not 100% recovered, so ignore if I like slur words or say some stupid stuff in this video. That's because of that. But I wanted to come on and make a video because since I was basically sleeping all day yesterday, some things have happened, some things have changed market-wise and structure-wise, and I want to address this and talk about some differences and some similarities as to what we've been discussing. So first off, I want to just discuss the question, like, am I wrong? Like, what I've been saying is I think that the markets are going to pull back and take the liquidity below us. Before we get into this, I just want to say that I think the Genius Bill, the Stablecoin Act, is potentially going to be passed today or tomorrow. We still have ongoing discussions with the US and China going on in the UK. I say this because these are quite big potential catalysts one way or another, and other geopolitical events that we've obviously been talking about for a long time, such as Russia, Ukraine, etc. So, with that being said, what is going on? So Bitcoin squeezed nicely up to 111,000, didn't make new all-time highs, but did touch recent swing highs. And we have significant liquidity above us here for Bitcoin, which could make me think that we go a little bit higher, up to 114,000 potentially, and squeeze this liquidity out. When you get close to the liquidity, you normally take it. However, what we've been discussing for a long time now is that we have liquidity below us here for Bitcoin. We have liquidity at 100K, and we do have this down at 93K. And as I've been showing you guys on the daily time frame, take us back to Bitcoin. No, it's not there. I've taken it off, but we had the fixed range volume coming in at about $97,000. Let's have a look. Yeah, around 97,000. Fixed range volume is right there. So they would be obvious pullback areas if we were going to get a pullback here. Now we've seen creators talking about ABCs, so this could be A, B, and C could take us lower into that 97 or maybe 100K if we get that pullback. But with this liquidity being above us, it does make me think that as we get closer to it, obviously more likely that we're going to take it. It doesn't take a genius to say that. But I am still cautious on altcoins. Let's look at Ethereum, for example. We're going to get into the details on ETH and XRP any second now. But I'm still curious on ETH. Do we come down and take this liquidity between like 2,200 and 2,300? It's the densest area of liquidity that we've got. And that also rings true across XRP as well, which is obviously what we cover most on this channel. Let's just get rid of the volume, the open interest for a second. But what we can see is so dense around the $2 mark for XRP, and it just makes me think, like, are we going to come and take that XRP liquidity here? But as we get closer to this liquidity above us, it makes you feel that self-reinforcing cycle to the upside, as we talk about. You squeeze out short positions, which makes price go up. People then get more bullish. They buy spot because they're seeing the price start to go up, which then takes us to the next area of short positions that squeezes that. And that's how that self-perpetuating cycle starts to really vortex to the upside. Now, with that being said, let's look at XRP on the daily. XRP is right at resistance here, the resistance that we've been in since January the 18th, the recent swing high. Could we be looking at a direction change here for XRP? We have seen some increased open interest, but nothing really to write home about for XRP there. So that's another thing that I'm watching. I'm watching this structure that I've just shown you there. Let's see if I've got which chart it's on. This is the structures that I've been watching. We've posted about this over there on X. Recent swing high we've taken. We've actually held that now as support twice. Continuing to hold that currently, which was the swing high from the 3rd of June. And then the next key area of resistance is this descending trend line, and then getting above that 260, 270 mark, starting to see closes above there for confirmation of a trend reversal back to the upside. What we can pretty much see is the low's been put in, then we put in a higher low. We came back and tested that higher low, but we did actually put in a higher high as well. We broke above the recent swing high, we put in the high, and then if this is the low, then we could see continuation to the upside here. In the technical level, that makes a lot of sense. However, as I've been saying, I am just cautious of the liquidity below us there for XRP. Looking at Ethereum, I think ETH looks extremely difficult to read at this point, okay? And I'll tell you why. What we've got here for ETH is a clear trend, a clear channel here, a range, whatever you want to call it. We've ranged between 2,730 and 2,300 essentially. We've been knocking around in that price range since the 9th of May. We've recently broken out. We've closed above that range for the first time, basically setting new, not all-time highs, but new local highs are the highest we've been since February. But open interest is still ticking up, the highest it's ever been, and is funding is green, and premium is going from red to green. That means that more people are long in than short in, or supposedly long in than short in right now. But with open interest being literally at its highest ever levels, it means there's going to be explosive price action one way or another when things start to happen. So I think I've been saying if we get closes above 2,800, and the reason I get that level is because it's this swing high here. We start to get closes above here, 2,860, then you'll start to see people unwinding those short positions, and that should leave ETH to squeeze higher. And I think that when it happens, ETH could aggressively move to the upside, because you're going to see that vortex that I've talked about. Positions get closed, sends price higher, which closes more positions, which sends price higher, closes more positions, times by the most open interest it's ever had. Okay, so this is a cocktail for an explosive bit of price action. Let me just take the rest of this off, because it doesn't really matter which way. Obviously, it does matter to some respect, but it doesn't completely matter which way people are with open interest right now. Open interest isn't heavily one way or another, is the point I'm making. There's just a shitload of open interest out there. So when this starts to squeeze, it's just increasing, this will at some point bleed downwards. And when it bleeds downwards, I imagine it's going to be when we push to the upside. It could also be like a massive long squeeze. We could come wick back and back test things and then get bought up spot. But I think what's going on at the minute is institutions are buying spot ETH through the ETF and hedging by shorting ETH with leverage, which is putting a lot of leverage in the system, but eventually it's going to squeeze ETH to a price where these shorts are going to get stopped, and we'll see explosive price action to the upside. I really think that's what's going to happen. I think we could be at all-time highs within weeks of when this starts to happen, if not towards like $10,000, $15,000 for ETH. I haven't been making those sorts of calls because I haven't really known where to put ETH, but with this amount of open interest, monumental amounts of open interest, monumental amounts. Like, we're 10 times higher nearly at open interest now than we were at 4,700 last year, and we're at nearly $3,000. And that I'm talking about ETH a lot here, but that relays through all of altcoins, because what it actually then means is if ETH gets that squeeze to the upside, most likely it's going to take some dominance away from Bitcoin, because Bitcoin doesn't have that sort of open interest at the minute. I just sneeze, I think. Give me 1 second. Oh, that hurts my head when I sneeze. But this is the next thing we wanted to talk about, is Bitcoin dominance. Looking at Bitcoin dominance, it always looks like I haven't drawn the chart properly, but if you go to the 4 hourly, it's actually different. I'll take it to the 4 hourly so I can show you. It's actually more accurate on the 4 hourly for some reason. But what you can see is, again, we did wick above the 786 retracement level, which is the last key retracement level, and have since fallen. However, we could argue that we're holding higher lows each time for Bitcoin dominance, yet on this recent fall, we have actually lost the potential bottom of like an ascending triangle sort of pattern. So I'm just monitoring Bitcoin dominance. It does look like it could bounce from here, being at the lows on the 4-hour RSI and the standard RSI. However, if we get that price squeeze for ETH, then this could be the start of the cascading fall to the downside for Bitcoin dominance, which is something that obviously has happened every alt season previously. So they're all the conflicting and contrasting pieces of information that we've got to work with right now, and it leaves me in a position of sitting some cash, if you've got any left, to buy spot or even on some low leverage if we get the flush down to the liquidity levels that we've discussed. ETH 2,200, XRP around $2. And remember, I'm not saying they're going to be the bottom, because that's where the liquidity is, and that's where they're going to get squeezed out of the position. So that's the area that the liquidity needs to be filled. For example, I'll show you, I'll just draw on the XRP chart to show you that exactly what I'm talking about. Excuse me, by the way. So let's say $2 is the liquidity. That's what we've been saying, isn't it? Where is my drawing? Sorry, guys. This is it. $2 is liquidity, which is around here. Okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. $2 is liquidity. It's around here. Bang. This is our liquidity area. So what's going to happen is if we hit this, and I'm not saying we have to, I'm just talking about the if. If we don't, we're sitting in the spot anyway and we go up and we're all in la la land, happy, happy. But if we come down, like work our way down, and we do hit this liquidity, remember that these are all getting closed at that time. So you might see an aggressive wick down. So I'm not saying the bottom comes in at $2. I'm saying that's where the liquidity is. If you hit that level, all these stop losses are going to get closed, and all of a sudden you could see a big liquidation wick. And then what you want to see, if we do see this, if we pull into that $2 range, anything below, like all this area, is prime buying opportunity, if I'm right with what I'm thinking. Because we squeeze these positions out, we push that liquidation wick out, we should V-bottom, and then off we go. That's basically where I think we are in terms of the market, if we get that wick to those prices. So I'm calling these out for you time and time again because I see so much liquidity there, and 80% of the time we get moved into areas of liquidity. We're at potential reversal levels here for XRP, touching the top of this descending trend line. It is currently holding above recent resistance, now holding that as support on the really short term, so it's nothing to write home about really, but we are consolidating above that. So chances are we do continue to the upside, but if we don't, you need to have a plan and understand where we're going to get these bids in. Similar with ETH. ETH has broken out the top of its range, which we've been discussing. On the shorter time frame, we are potentially bearish crossing on the 4-hour and the stochastic. Could we come to the bottom of the range? And if so, will we sweep below that, take the liquidity, and then continue higher? Potentially, but with the most open interest ever for ETH, it's quite easy for us to also continue to the upside. So how you play this is completely up to you. I've told you how I'm playing it. I'm not here trying to prophesize what's going to happen with markets, because I think anyone who's certain on that at the minute doesn't have a good reading on TA. With the amount of liquidity we've got below us, it's always something to be cautious of. But with price trying to squeeze to the upside, it only takes a little further push from here to catalyze a potential move, and then that move, as I was saying with ETH, could be the trigger for alt season. Looking at XRP ETH, XRP Bitcoin, XRP dominance, XRP ETH did have the push above the close above level that we wanted. However, since then, ETH obviously exploded to the upside and XRP kind of lagged behind. We have seen some volume for the first time in a long time come in here for XRP against ETH. This is the biggest volume spike that I've seen, as I said, in a long while. While we've got the RSI potentially trending upwards and the stochastic turning upwards as well, we also are seeing a continued bullish divergence here for ETH. What you can see is prices are forming higher lows, lower lows, and the RSI is forming higher lows. The first being here, like first one to talk about here, and then we obviously slowed that downward move down. And they've since swept the lows and again have put in a higher low on the RSI whilst price makes a lower low. Again, another bullish confirmation there. So maybe XRP is about to do its thing against ETH. Similar with Bitcoin, we've been continuing from the lows here to make higher lows on the RSI and higher lows in price action. We obviously made the same sort of pattern on the daily time frame here. Let me just take us to the daily. The daily time frame for Bitcoin here, look. This is where we put in our low on the RSI. We put in a higher low on the RSI here, making a bullish divergence there. And finally, on XRP dominance, we found support on previous resistance, and we're continuing to open this trend up to the upside, potentially looking for more of a reversal here for XRP dominance. Again, creeping up on the RSI, potentially bullish crossing on the 4-hour, and stochastic looking to turn up. It looks like we're ever so close to it being time, guys. Whether we have this last flush out or not, I could never be 100% sure. I'm just warning you guys as to what I see based on technicals, and the amount of leverage there is in the system now is obscene, especially in ETH. When we get this squeeze to the upside, I think it's going to be so aggressive and people aren't going to be prepared. So how you want to prep yourself for that is up to you. For me, I'm mainly spot anyway, so I'm putting some extra bids in there if we do get the flush down. If we don't, I'll sit on the sidelines and be happy anyway. For you guys, if you've got some cash and you don't want to take the risk, maybe buy some spot and then hold a bit more to buy some more spot in whatever your favorite alts might be. Although I'm just addressing here XRP, ETH and Bitcoin, it's pretty much the same story across the rest of the market. If we get that pullback in Bitcoin dominance and it starts to cascade downwards, everything's going to go insane. I don't care what people say online. The party will get started. But whether we have to fade like a flush first and maybe this Genius Act does something bad for stables generally and people start shitting themselves and we have a flush out, oh my god, crypto's going to zero, and then they realize it's probably the best thing ever for crypto once they work that out. Maybe that's the narrative. I don't know if there will be a narrative or if it will even definitely come, but that's what I'm watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button and share it with a friend. I'm sorry that my brain's not really on it today. Still feeling ill, as I said. I do have prescription medication for migraines. I don't have them very often. It's the first one in like a year, and it's been a bad one, to be fair. I've slept probably like 30 out of the last 36 hours. Had a coffee in me this morning. It's made me feel much better than I was, but still not 100%. But thank you for tuning in, and a lot of people sent me get well messages on X, and I appreciate that as well. So thank you to everyone. Stay safe out there and just prep yourself for either direction here, because we're very close to exciting season. But could we get one more trick thrown our way before that happens? Peace up, A-Town Downs Crypto, like UK would say.